So our next presenter is Mike Barnes. He's presenting his thesis on work hypothesis in the world of energy, renewable portfolio standards, and their effects on returns for investor-owned utilities. His thesis advisor is Sharon Soderstrom from Program Environment and Organizational Studies, and his thesis reader is Joshua Cetus from the School of Public Policy.
Thank you, Jason. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael. Like Jason said, my project dealt with renewable portfolio standards and how they affect the returns on investor-owned utilities or IOUs. So a little background here. I chose to pursue this major and really chose to pursue this thesis because I wanted to study the massive issue that is climate change, as I'm sure is the case with everyone who's spoken today. So throughout my time here, I've taken a lot of courses in the environment. And those courses often have been with statistics, such as this. The last 7 years have been the hottest on global record, or something involving the global sea level, which is rising at double the rate now that it has in the last century. These statistics are often accompanied by some pretty alarming predictions of climate change affecting really all areas of human life. Food prices, for example, are set to increase dramatically as global yields will decrease by up to 20%. 11 to 14% of global output will be lost by 2050, and that's a very conservative estimate of $23 trillion. And 100 million people will be pushed into poverty by 2030 because, as with any issue that deals with resources as directly as climate change does, it's going to affect developing third world countries the most. And these are just the effects that it has on humans directly. Ecosystems around the globe are feeling the effects of warming in real time right now, and over 1 million species of plants and animals are expected to be endangered to go extinct by the year 2050. So we can really sit here all day and talk about the severity of this issue, but it's very important to consider that mitigation on the scale that we need it does not happen without public support, and that public support is currently lacking. Only 52% of Americans believe in human-caused climate change, according to a poll conducted by Gallup, and only 42% said that climate change is very important to their vote in the 2020 presidential election. That's accompanied by a pretty stark partisan divide, which you can observe there on the right side of that table. And to me, the way I see it, there's really no prediction or statistic that scientists can come up with that's really going to change this data. What environmentalists and politicians should be doing, what they are starting to do, is getting down to the root of the issue and asking the question, if data like this exists, which it does, how then can data like this also exist? What's the reason behind this massive juxtaposition between the scientific community and the public opinion? The answer, according to most of the literature, has to do with money. The only thing more concerning to a lot of people than a looming climate disaster is a world of immediate financial and economic uncertainty and instability. This is, enhanced by the narratives promoted by politicians and lobbyists who speak of this inherent trade-off between stringent environmental policy and the economic health of our country. Because of those supposed effects that these policies have on industry. But as the Porter hypothesis shows, these relationships between industry and policy are a lot more complex than they may seem. So the Porter hypothesis is really the basis of my research. It was developed in 1991 by Harvard economist Michael Porter, and he theorizes that a properly designed environmental policy can actually have an inverse effect on business because of their ability to limit externalities such as pollution, which allows corporations to save resources, increase their efficiency, and spur innovation that would be absent otherwise. And I get that this may not be the most intuitive thing in the world to think about. It certainly wasn't for me when I began studying it. But there is a significant amount of literature that backs the Porter hypothesis in a wide variety of industries. Despite all that evidence and support, there really is no consensus in favor or against, and it varies greatly by industry and by policy instrument. So the industry we wanted to look at was the world of energy. Why? Because energy has so much potential and really is going to be on the front lines in our battle to mitigate the effects of climate change. Energy production emits more greenhouse gases than anything else, any sector around the globe. About 25% of global emissions coming from energy production. But the good news is we know how to fix it. 75% of energy emissions reductions that we need to avoid the worst impacts of climate change can be met by renewable energy development alone. But as I kind of referenced earlier, there's a host of preventative factors that are currently frustrating and stagnating the policy development and the renewable energy development in general that we need. The most relevant of those to our study was the second bullet point here, the political opposition. Lobbyists and politicians in the gas and utilities industries that want to maintain the status quo of energy production commonly frustrate, stagnate, deter legislation that would, help us reach, this goal of wide-scale renewable energy development. Commonly citing the economic impacts that these supposed policies will have on the corporations that they affect, which are investor-owned utilities. And so I really wanted to cite the quarter hypothesis in the world of energy to test the validity of these, these people that deter these policies, to study the cost effectiveness of wide-scale renewable energy development, and also to analyze the effects, the response rather, that corporations have when there's an external pressure that's forcing them to develop renewable energy. In our case, that external factor is the Renewable Portfolio Standard, or the RPS. And so what these policies do is they require that a specified percentage of the utility's electricity sales must be met by renewable resources by a certain year. So in Michigan, for example, a utility like DTE has to obtain 15% of their electricity sales by renewables by the year 2025. And the good thing about studying this alongside the quarter hypothesis is that the financial burden falls directly on the utility. So that means the development, maintenance, the oversight of these renewable infrastructures, that cost falls directly on the utility. So there's a really significant external cost and external pressure being applied by these policies. These policies are enacted at the state level. There's no federal mandate to implement an RPS. And they vary greatly from state to state. There are 36 states and territories that have enacted them to this point. Within those states, they vary greatly in targets and designs, etc. It also should be noted that these policies are very, very effective. They've been essential in the development of renewable energy in the United States up to this point, and 50% of our current renewable infrastructure can be attributed to the presence of the RPS policy. So very effective indeed. So now looking at our sample, we chose to look at the utilities in Washington, Oregon, Hawaii, Minnesota, Illinois, Ohio, New York, and North Carolina. So within each of these states, we looked at the utilities, the investor utilities that were operating within them. For some states, this meant looking at one utility. For others, it meant two. And the reason for these specific states is because they vary greatly in how stringent or demanding their RPS policy is. So this stringency score was calculated through an algorithm which takes into account the percentage mandate, the target year. So a more distant target year results in a less stringent policy, a more immediate target year results in a more stringent policy. But the great thing about this stringency score calculation is that it takes into account some features of policies that are not really visible at the surface level, namely enforcement mechanisms and provisions that exist or are absent in the policies that help alleviate some of the financial strain off of the utility itself. So a state like Ohio, with a very stringent score, has very strict enforcement mechanisms and does not include a lot of provisions within that policy that alleviate the financial burden off of the utilities in Ohio. While a state like Oregon has very weak enforcement mechanisms and a lot of provisions included in the policy that alleviate a lot of the financial stress off of the utilities. So that was our independent variable for our study. Our dependent variable was stock return data for the IOUs in question. By all accounts of the literature, stock return data is a very good indicator of the financial health of a firm. So with that in mind, we use daily stock return data from within 4 months and 2 years when the RPS policy is enacted. We insert that data into a cumulative abnormal return equation, or CAR. This equation is great because it allows us to control for market-wide fluctuations as it analyzes one firm's performance against the entire market. So general trends up or down in the market don't really affect our equation at all because it's really just looking at how one firm compares to the entire market. So yeah, that policy was, or that equation rather, was great because it did offer that control that we needed, and also our isolation of the dates surrounding the RPS policy. Those time frames allow us to, with good confidence, attribute any abnormal returns or lack thereof to the presence and the enactment of the RPS policy and the shareholders' reaction to that. So with that in mind, let's take a look at some of our results. We'll start with taking two states here, Oregon and Ohio, that differ greatly in stringency score and see how they performed against one another. So Oregon, as we expected with such a lenient stringency score, such a lenient RPS policy, the utility that we looked at performed very well against the market during these time periods. To analyze these graphs, this x-axis represents the market, and the y-axis represents the firm. And each plot represents a day and time. So the regression model we ran shows the slope here, and if that slope is greater than 1, it indicates that a firm performed better than the market. If that slope is less than 1, it indicates a firm performed worse. And so again, Oregon performed very well. But the real exciting and interesting aspect of our results come when we view a state like Ohio with a much more stringent policy. These utilities are under much more financial stress from the RPS. They have much more to say or to do in terms of developing renewable energy out of pocket. And despite all this, the utilities in Ohio were able to perform almost identical to that of Oregon. And these results are relatively consistent throughout the other 8 states. As you can observe here, there really is no general trend in a relationship between the stringency of these policies and the stock returns of these corporations. These graphs on the right, each plot indicates a state, the x-axis representing stringency score, the y-axis representing return data. If there truly was a significant relationship here, if the stringency of these policies truly did affect the economic health of these corporations significantly, we would expect a much more vertical, much more defined slope in these graphs. But as you can see there, that line's nearly horizontal. So there really is no discernible relationship here. And the statistical test that we ran validated this. We ran 2 F-tests. The p-values that those tests yielded were 0.6 and 0.8 respectively. So for those of you who are statistically savvy, you'll know that that is nowhere near the realm of statistically significant. So we really were unable to prove any sort of relationship between our independent variable of stringency score and our dependent variable of stock return data. And, for a lot of studies, I feel like a non-result kind of such as this would be viewed as very lukewarm. But I think we should view this as an overall positive because the main preventative factor in the wider adoption of the RPS policy, but environmental policy in general, is this notion that they have such a negative effect on the economic health of our industries. And our data here proves that that's not always the case. Stringent policy and economic health are not mutually exclusive, as our data proves. And it also shows that these arguments made by lobbyists and politicians definitely have the ability to be hyperbolic or even untrue. I also hope this study prompts future research to really examine the true nature of these relationships between policy and economic performance in other industries, so we can better realize a future that is equal parts sustainable and economical. I just want to give a huge thank you to my advisors right there, and Alex Magnator right there. They have been an absolute joy to work with. I could not ask for a better team. Just so supportive, kept me grounded throughout this whole process, gave me wonderful advice, and in general are just great people. They're so enjoyable to be with every other week. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Josh. You guys are the best.
Michael did all the work, though. interesting stuff to really think about sort of how firms responded to these regulations. Just kind of trying to think through what's actually happening here. I mean, you mentioned some of those things on the last slide that, it doesn't seem like the policies are really putting a pinch on companies, and in many ways it's what we hope for, that we can still achieve environmental good without, really stopping companies from functioning. So what do you suspect is happening here? Is it just that companies are able to meet their RPS no problem, or are they actually getting more efficient?
Yeah, well, I think when looking at RPS specifically, I think it really speaks to the cost effectiveness of renewable energy and its ability to offer a return on investment relatively quickly. But in general, I think it just reflects the idea that really the information that companies operate on isn't perfect. And these policies can often force them to increase their efficiency, enhance their processes. That will overall help them, even though it comes in the form of like a regulation that they wouldn't have implemented otherwise. Yeah.
Do you look at the correlation between the cost to the consumer between the more stringent and less stringent policies?
Can you repeat your question? Sorry.
The difference in the cost to the consumer.
Right. Yeah.
It's not affecting the companies, but is it affecting the end consumer?
Right. Yeah, we did take a look at that. And costs remained relatively consistent, adjusted for inflation. If I had more time, I would have kind of talked about the process by which utilities charge their customers. It's a very complex process. They have to file what's called rate cases. So it's a very legal process if they want to increase or decrease their costs. And originally, that was going to kind of be made variable to study how stringency affects those rate cases. But what I found early on was that there really wasn't any significant effect whatsoever on the cost of the consumer, which is great.
So my question that's more kind of methods, I guess, about so the stringency score that's calculated, is that something that you developed, or has that been used in other research books in RPS? And then kind of secondly, I'm also interested in the stock return data and where that came from, how you collected that.
Yes. So the stringency scores, that algorithm was developed by Sanford Farley, who is at Indiana University. And she does a lot of research on RPS policies and developed that stringency score. And so those values came from a few of her works. And as for the stock return data, we used Working School of Business, which is UPenn's School of Business. They have a huge database. So we kind of submitted an application to request access for that data. And from there, we were able to, access all the stock return data that we could have wanted. We could specify for date, what exactly we're looking for. And so that's what we used for that. And then we just entered that into the equation, which yielded those regression graphs for each of the utilities.